Russia and Iran are trying to influence the US presidential election, says the Director of National Intelligence. Both countries denying the accusations. This just before the second and last presidential debate. More parts of France to be placed on maximum coronavirus alert. The Prime Minister Jean Castex is due to give an update soon. Some 27,000 new infections were recorded on Wednesday. And mixed reactions to a dramatic statement by the Pope. Pope Francis voicing support for same-sex civil unions in a new documentary. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Claire Pride. Now, with less than 2 weeks to go before the US presidential election, the head of national intelligence has accused Russia and Iran of trying to affect the outcome. On Wednesday, John Radcliffe said both countries had managed to get American voter registration data. Russia, of course, was found to have intervened in 2016's election. Karis Garland reports.
Less than 2 weeks out from the presidential election, US officials accuse Iran of interfering with the vote with the aim to incite chaos and social unrest.
We have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia. This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in American democracy.
The US government accused Iran of being behind a spoof email campaign targeting Democratic voters in some swing states. The emails appear to come from the Proud Boys armed militia group, telling recipients to vote for Donald Trump. According to officials, Tehran is also distributing a video falsely implying that people could cast a fraudulent ballot from overseas. The spokesperson for Iran's mission to the United Nations denied claims of meddling. US intelligence said Russia had also obtained voter information, but didn't specify how or what Moscow plans to do with it. This isn't the first time a foreign power has interfered in American elections. US intelligence agencies concluded Kremlin-backed hackers were behind an effort to undermine Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016, using cyber attacks and fake news stories on social media. Trump has repeatedly cast doubt over the claims. This Wednesday, US officials told Americans they should be confident that their vote counts and stressed that election systems remained secure.
Now, later this Thursday, Donald Trump and Joe Biden go head-to-head for their second and last presidential debate. This a day after Barack Obama went back on the campaign trail on Biden's behalf and attacked Trump over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, a major issue in this election. Today's debate is in Nashville, Tennessee, and since the first one was chaotic, the rules have been changed and Biden and Trump's mics will be muted at times. Let's go to Washington now and speak to our correspondent Kitivan Gorjestani. Kitivan, what are Biden and Trump's strategies going into this final debate?
Well, for the President of the United States, it's pretty simple. He needs a comeback. He is trailing in all the polls that we've seen recently. And so he needs to have a very strong showing to turn things around, to turn the tables around. So he's going to go on the offense and attack the former vice president. What he's going to attack him on? Probably mostly personal things. And the idea, and he started doing it on social media and in his appearances at his rallies, is going after the son of former Vice President Biden, Hunter Biden, and his accusations that he has been peddling in recent days that Hunter Biden used his father's position as vice president under the Obama administration to use that as leverage for his business dealings. The question for Joe Biden is, how does he react to these attacks? Does he try to take the high road, try to avoid answering and avoid being dragged into that battle like he somehow did in the first presidential debate? Or does he go on the offense? Does he hit back at Donald Trump and attack his own children, who have also allegations of using their father's power for their business dealings. So it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Biden maneuvers that, because for Joe Biden, the strategy is do no harm. He's leading in the polls. He needs to go through this last major hurdle without having any huge problem in order to really hold it out towards November 3rd and keep that lead in the polls.
Meanwhile, Kitivan, the Republicans are one step closer to getting Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court.
Yes, the final official move by the Senate Judiciary Committee took place earlier this morning. The Judiciary Committee, the Republican members of the Judiciary Committee, voting to send that nomination to the full Senate. The Republicans who voted 12-0 in that Judiciary Committee simply because the Democrats decided to boycott that committee vote. They didn't show up in the room. Instead, in their seats, there were these huge posters of people who rely on the Affordable Care Act, and that is to show how important this Obamacare is because the Supreme Court is going to be hearing a case against the Affordable Care Act just after the election, probably when Amy Coney Barrett will be sitting on that Supreme Court. So it was a move by the Democrats, a symbolic move because, of course, they couldn't prevent that vote from happening. This nomination is now going to the Senate, and the Senate has said that they will be voting on the official confirmation on Monday. The Republicans, of course, controlling that Senate, so they have the votes, as the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said. They only have 2 Republicans so far who have said that they wouldn't be voting for a confirmation before Election Day. The Democrats would need 2 more Republicans to join their ranks in order to block that confirmation.
Thank you very much, Kitivan. To Nigeria now, where the governor of Delta State in the south of the country has declared a 48-hour curfew in the wake of anti-police brutality protests. Also, we're getting reports of shots fired and a prison set ablaze in Lagos. Tensions high after protesters were shot on Tuesday. Rights groups say several people were killed. Yinka Oyetare has more.
Broadcasting at this TV studio was suddenly brought to a halt after protesters stormed the building, setting it alight. Television Continental is one of several buildings in Lagos to have been torched by anti-police demonstrators. This is the country reels from what Lagos State Governor dubbed one of the darkest hours in Nigeria's history, after peaceful protests against police brutality took a dark turn in Lagos Tuesday.
Everyone sit down, sit down, sit down!
When security forces reportedly opened fire on unarmed demonstrators.
It was brutal. It's incomparable. It's beyond my experience. I've never experienced this in Nigeria before. Why do they off the lights and killing people?
Human rights group Amnesty International say Tuesday's crackdown killed a dozen people, noting that 56 people have been killed since protests began October 7th. They are now calling on the Nigerian government to act.
It's also important for the authorities to investigate those allegations that the CCTV cameras and the street lights were not available at that point in time, and that they were actually removed prior to the incidents that occurred.
Despite the outrage sparked by Tuesday's bloodshed, security forces have again been accused of violence. In these images, police appeared to shoot a man as he laid on the ground after arresting him Wednesday. Tuesday's deadly tollgate clampdown sparked condemnation on a global scale, with angry demonstrators taking to the streets in Cape Town and London. President Buhari is yet to address Tuesday's shooting, but has called for calm. The protests have now morphed, with demonstrators calling for an end to corruption and what they say is bad governance in the country.
Now, lately, French people have been getting updates every Thursday on the spread of COVID-19 from the country's health minister, Olivier Véran. But today, it's the Prime Minister, Jean Castex, stepping in front of the mic. This a day after the government spokesperson said that more parts of France would be placed on maximum alert, and that could mean more curfews like the one here in Paris. Castex met the heads of major parties, and when asked if the curfew could soon start at 7 p.m. instead of 9 p.m, he didn't say. Now, France, of course, is just one of many European countries stepping up COVID restrictions. Ireland enters a second nationwide lockdown later, and more drastic measures are on the cards for Spain, which has become the first country in Western Europe to surpass 1 million cases.
Shuttered shopfronts line the streets in Dublin as the whole country is told to stay at home for the next 6 weeks. Ireland is the first state in Europe to impose a second lockdown, with all non-essential businesses ordered to close.
Everyone in the country has been asked to stay at home, with exercise permitted within a 5-kilometre radius of your home.
Across the Irish Sea, Wales is also imposing a lockdown starting on Friday. In Spain, several regions and cities, including Madrid, have been cordoned off. It's one of the hardest hit countries in Europe and has now crossed a grim new milestone of 1 million infections. In Italy, where the first coronavirus case in Europe was registered, several regions including Lazio, Lombardy and Campania have imposed a curfew. Germany, meanwhile, has just hit a record 10,000 new cases in 24 hours. The Minister of Health is one of the newly infected. The neighbouring Czech Republic has also seen its biggest number of cases. Bars, restaurants and schools were closed a week ago. Only going to work or buying essential items is allowed.
V tuto chvíli ještě nejsme v situaci, že bychom kolabovali nějakým způsobem. Spíše teď už ty studenty nabíráme proto, aby jsme si to prostředí připravili a byli připraveni na to, že ta situace se zhoršit může.
Despite having only just imposed a partial lockdown in recent days, the Polish government is already preparing to implement new restrictions. The president of the European Council, Charles Michel, is set to host a video conference with European leaders on October 29th. To discuss what more the EU can do to curb the spread of the virus.
A very positive move. It's contrary to church teaching. These some of the reactions to the Pope's statement about same-sex civil unions. In a new documentary called Francesco, Pope Francis voices support for them. The film had its premiere in Rome last night. For more reactions, I spoke to Seema Gupta, our correspondent in Rome.
You have those who are gay Catholics, the LGBTQ community who are Catholic, their allies, as they clearly have welcomed these statements, saying that, it's about time, it's a strong endorsement. It took great courage, is what one gay prominent personality here in Italy said. It took great courage for him to come out in this way. And they're glad that he's speaking out and breaking a taboo. But then on the other side, you, of course, have the conservative arm, the right-wing arm of the Catholic Church, if you like, that has been inflamed by these statements. You had a bishop, a conservative bishop in the United States, saying that it contradicted Catholic teaching. And so it was not a right move in any way. Right-wing media here in Italy, one paper saying the church is in chaos with this, with the Pope making statements like this, as opposed to what is known as actual Catholic teaching. But there are those out there that say, in fact, what he said is really no change at all in terms of what he said in the past. Because if you recall, back when he was not the Pope, but the Archbishop of Buenos Aires in Argentina, back in 2010, he said he opposed gay marriage, but he said he supported civil unions because this provided people with legal access when they needed it, when they were part of a family. So really, this is just an extension, some would say, of Pope Francis' position of compassion towards the gay community. Let's not forget that he was the one back in 2013 when he became Pope. He said, "Who am I to judge?" when referring to the gay community, not wanting to marginalize them.
So does this not change anything or mean anything really for the Catholic Church, the institution?
Well, what a lot of Vatican watchers are saying is that this is the first time that you're getting a very clear statement, and it's on film, in which the Pope is actually making the statement as Pope. not as the Archbishop of Buenos Aires in the past. So in that sense, it is a move away, if you like, compared to what previous popes have said. But that said, to change church doctrine on something so significant is not something that is said in statements in films. This actually has to be done in a very formal way. There is often great discussion and debate within the church, and then such a change would come forward. What this move, perhaps, as we're seeing in this film, has done, and perhaps this may be what Pope Francis wants, is to encourage discussion and debate.
That's it for this edition. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.